Valerie, just a quick question for you.
Yep.
I've got the windows open. You're not hearing, anybody hearing road noise in the background on their end?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ken, Jeff, you want to call the meeting? Is everybody else having trouble hearing, or is it just me?
I can't hear Ken at all.
I can't hear Ken at all.
I can't hear Ken.
Neither can I.
That's
Okay,
because I haven't said anything.
I can hear Ken now.
That will solve that problem, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
That was easy.
That would explain it. We can begin the meeting. Mallory,
yes.
yeah, I believe you had some concerns or questions
Okay.
you wanted to bring up regarding getting ready for opening up the town hall and building.
Yes, sorry, I was, okay.
That's
So,
okay.
We had an emergency management meeting last week, and out of that meeting came a few developments that are very important and very instrumental for us reopening. We developed a reopening task force that's going to work on ways to keep you safe as we bring you back to work after the governor lifts his ban. We are also thinking of ways to limit the public's access to us and really promote electronic means of doing things. So we also did, which is, I'll let Todd and Brett, if they want to take it away, or even Tom Pyers, about Code Red. We're instituting a emergency alert system for residents, and this has been a long time coming, but I think the pandemic has shed light on its importance that we are able to communicate with all of our residents, no matter how they get their news. So that will be rolling out, and I'll be making some announcements about it at the next selectmen's meeting, which is next week. But we really wanted to share what we're thinking about on our end. And then if you have any real particular things relative to your department that we might not be thinking about, share those with us. We do also want to sit down with each department to get some one-on-one time for those, so that will be coming. But this is really to share information with you and get some feedback on things, not really in the weeds about your particular department, but town-wide. And then we can share ideas about assisting other things. I know that Sue has the town election coming up, and staffing that has come into question. I myself has volunteered, so we'll let her chat about that very quickly as well. So Chief McGee, myself, Jim Aguiar, and Todd Pilling, excuse me, we have become this task force, and we developed some COVID-19 standard operating procedures. I have a draft here, and I'll share it with you. We will be basically starting the workday. Each employee will come in and self-certify that they have not had contact with COVID-19, that they have no symptoms, no fever, no cough, et cetera, and then they're going to initial with each department head, initial that they swear basically that they're good to go. And so that language is all spelled out in this draft SOP that I can share with you. And then it says if you have had close contact, what to do, or if you are exhibiting symptoms, what to do. There's procedures while at work that are going to be put in place so that we are all safe. This includes sanitizer being at shared stations like copiers, faxes. You have to wear a mask. I have a mask. You have to, when you're working with people or talking to people, you should put it on. But if you're separate, like we're all separate right now, you don't have to, obviously you don't have to wear a mask. And then there's just good hygiene practices. Keep washing your hands, keep covering your cough, keep being aware of how you spread germs, and just use your head, right? And then there's a little section about responsibility of the employer, about what we are going to provide to our employees to make sure that we're good. Some of what we're providing, we are going to look into getting some masks. We found some masks for a reasonable rate, so we have that. We have hand sanitizer. We have, we're on back order on a couple of lists, but for Clorox wipes, because some of the procedures include wiping down your station before and after you come to work with Clorox or Lysol wipes over and above. We also have partitions on the way. Jim, if you want to talk about that a little bit, but they're designed to separate the public from the employee. And then I call it the pod, but it's in Mary and Sue's office, that cluster of desks. They'll have partitions there. Jim, do you want to add anything on that?
Sure. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jim.
First, I want to
Hi,
thank,
Jim.
hi. I want to thank everyone. The town has been great through this whole process, and it's been a pleasure to work with all of you. That said, we realized early on that we would definitely need some type of protection. They're called virus guards. They are plexiglass windows that have pass-throughs of ample size to accommodate all the daily works that we have. We placed an extensive order, meaning that we have enough virus guards on the way to put 3 permanent windows in. For instance, Selectman Sue Medeiros' window and Clerk Collector will all have permanent plexiglass windows in place. Those windows will not impede the locking of those doors, so those offices will still be able to be secured. And then we'll have some tabletop models that are going to be used for the assessor's office, the library, my building, and then a half a dozen in various offices where people will have an impossible time of social distancing because of their locations of their workstations. So all said, those are supposed to land. We're actually picking them up to save the time constraint with the mailing and shipping. They're local, by the way. We found a local company in Lincoln, Rhode Island. About the same time that the governor's anticipated opening up town hall, or I'm sorry, the state and we in turn open up town hall. So that said, we put a lot of thought into it. We've also ordered some for the elections personnel, which we know is unfortunately staffed by people who are in the dangerous population, which I know Mallory's going to elaborate on to help with keeping those people away from elections. But we're doing our part, and we're doing a good job at it. So hopefully it all comes together and we have it all ready for the 18th. But we have a backup plan if that doesn't happen either. So go ahead, I yield.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Jocelyn, that's a good question. So Jocelyn has asked a question about if the slots are big enough for picture books and oversized materials, and I think that's part of the conversation that would be one-on-one with your specific department's needs. But that is, something that we can think about. We have some thoughts about the library, but they need to be fleshed out a little bit more with a meeting with you, Jocelyn. Split shifts also. So again, I call it the pod, but those people are not able to distance themselves from the others unless maybe they move their operations into the selectmen's meeting room and separate that way. So if your department has those kinds of constraints, you might want to consider split shifts. Somebody comes in the morning, somebody comes in at night, and then as long as everybody's cleaning their workstations and using their hand sanitizer and wearing their masks, we should still be able to prevent the spread. Carrie and Jonathan, with you guys, if you want to work out your schedule so you're not sharing an office at the beginning, and then you still, I have to commend the two of you. You've done an excellent job, just like many of our others, but you guys stand out that you've worked remotely so efficiently. And so I really appreciate what you did. And also you were the guinea pigs on the public hearing for Zoom. So well done, and it went well. So well done you. But
Must be TV last night, for sure.
High ratings. They're not making any other material out of Hollywood, so we have no competition. So if you work out your schedules and figure that out, or you could even use the lower level meeting room in some cases if you came into a jam. So this just is going to take really coordination and communication, and with the self-certification, you're on the hook for individual responsibility that you're telling the truth to us, and you're going to sign as such. Chief McGee, do you want to add anything? I want to highlight Chief McGee. He put in some policies in place for his department personnel because it's living quarters in there, and they really seem to work. So a lot of what we talked about on the task force is modeled after that. And I don't want to say it's a proven thing, but we are using, evidence-based things to make our decisions. Does anybody have any questions before I go on?
Mallory, you're gonna check temps?
We're not checking temperatures yet. You are supposed, as part of, maybe I should read this. As part of the self-certification, you are swearing as an employee that you have no signs of a fever or a measured temperature above 100.3 degrees or greater, or a cough or trouble breathing within the past 24 hours. That's the first thing. If we were going to check temperatures, it opens up this whole other can of worms about providing a thermometer. Like, we would use our own thermometer, and then it has to be sanitized, or you have to do the throwaway ones. And we didn't believe, or I don't believe, I don't want to speak for the other three, that we would be able to keep up with that process and that demand. But
Okay.
these
So
are under draft.
it's each individual's responsibility.
Right, and you're signing off that you don't have this and that you have not come into contact with that.
Okay.
There's a one.
Correct.
Yeah, you said correct. Jim.
Valerie, can I interject real quick?
Yes.
So the other thing that was discussed in our task force meeting was that, first of all, we have excellent employees. They're very responsible. So they're more than capable for taking their own temperature. And then the other thing was that most people are going to go through that process before they leave the house in the morning. So therefore, if there's a problem, then they'll call their department head and say, I have an issue. Certainly, no one wants to leave the house if they feel ill. So we thought that this would be an effective means and respect the employee to make their own decision based on facts.
Okay, yeah, that works. I just wanted to specifically ask about temps because we hear it on the news all the time. So to reiterate, it's part of your procedures. That's fine. That's all I wanted to know.
We do have another question. I just want to recognize that I got the question, Tim. Todd, you did it. Thank you. So Tim had asked a question, for those who didn't see it. Will there be any guidance from Board of Health on opening parks and playgrounds, specifically the Carl K. Spratt Field? And Health Agent Todd Pilling responds with, we are still awaiting guidance from the state reopening committee, which so are we. We're just being proactive about it. But yes, the Board of Health will be issuing guidance. And Tim, also, that's one of those things where we're going to sit down one-on-one with you for your specific needs, because every department is different.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Chief McGee, do you have anything to add at this moment, at this juncture?
I don't think so. I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Thank you. Todd, anything to add?
No, not specifically, but right, if anybody has any concerns, they can reach out directly to me and say, like Tim just did, hey, what are we going to do about this? And we can figure it out. We may not have the answers right now, but the state keeps coming out with new guidance every day.
Great. So as part of this procedure, you're going to start getting some emails from me, some correspondence. I said something to, I think, Bob McDonald, the police chief, about law enforcement and some clarification from the AG's office. You as department heads are going to start getting some documentation that you would make available to your employees, that you would post. We have whoever made the sign out front, thank you. I don't know who did that, but it was about face coverings. Thank you. It looks beautiful. And I appreciate that. It was you. Thank you, Todd. Looks good. So we have signage on the front door. We are going to send out communication to all of the employees. We have a great email system where you can reach everybody with very, very, the distribution lists are very easy to access. So we'll be using those quite a bit as we share information. But still the same themes apply. If you can remotely participate, do it. If you can transact electronically, do that. So, and the clerks, for example, we did a news story about mail-in voting. It's very simple and easy. We listed out the steps. And Sue, I don't want to speak for you, but I saw that pile on your desk, and it looks like people are taking advantage of that. So
They are. Probably about 30 just in 3 days.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, that's not counting absentee ballots. That's just early voting. And I think the word's starting to get out a little more. So I really see, and I think more so in the next couple of weeks, I think is when we're really going to see it a lot more coming in. And that's what the other clerks are saying right now. The first week is kind of slow. And then when they getting closer to the election, one of the clerks has her election May 26th. She did 600 in 2 weeks. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm kind of hoping that's the route it goes. But you still want to allow, and Secretary Galvin has already said he will not do away with the in-person voting because people, that's their right. And many people just want to go to the polls. So, but I think early voting is going to be a good thing. I think it's going to catch on real quick. And I think it's something we're going to see come September and November. There's some legislature that was filed by Secretary of State Galvin about the primary in September to do early voting. November, that was already in place for 2 weeks of early voting, but now they're doing the early voting by mail along with the in-house early voting. So a lot of that's still at the legislature level, at the House and the Senate, State Senate. So we're thinking maybe by next week we'll get more guidance on that. It'll just give us a better idea of what's going on. It's going well. It's going well. So.
Can I ask you a question about it, Sue?
Sure. Did you get yours, Brett, in the mail?
Yes, I did. I sent it back. Thank you. Our whole household is going to do it. It's really convenient. So I did.
Yep, they all went out a couple days ago. Yep.
Yeah, we got them. Thank you. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for that. I think that was really forward thinking. So kudos to your office, Sue. The other question I wanted to ask is, I'm sure you expect that we'll have more mail-in ballots for this annual town election than usual. And I know it's pretty expensive in terms of postage to send them. It's like 80-something cents each one. So
85 each one.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, do you have a little bit of a cushion in terms of funds to
I have no cushion. I have absolutely no cushion. I'm not sure if you know, but because of the early voting, well, when I have my town elections, I don't order a lot of absentee ballots. I only order like 100 because it's the same people that vote absentee. And unfortunately, and I ordered like 25 the regular ballots. So I called the state last week and said, I'm not going to have enough absentee ballots. Can I just mail out the regular ballot? One's yellow, one's white. What's the big difference? They said, absolutely not. So I had to order another 600 absentee ballots last week. So there's another probably $600. The postage, I'm going to be hurting everywhere on my election account. With the early voting, with the postage, with the ballots. But I might have a little bit of cushion in another one of my departments, maybe my clerk department budget, that I can, shift from one budget line to the other. So I think it's something I probably won't really know until probably the beginning of June.
I understand. It just may require, correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Administrator, something like a year-end transfer or something, just to make it.
I wrote that down, that if we could take advantage of the Finance Committee meetings and the Board of Selectmen meetings and do some transfers to cover those expenditures. So thank you,
Sue?
Absolutely.
I have a question, Madam Administrator.
Yeah, I got one too.
I have a question.
Okay.
This is to Mrs. Medeiros, if I may. Where can we find the guidance? I have my relatives and friends are asking me, where can we find the guidance for the mail-in voting?
I can send that.
Okay, well, if you go on the Dine website, we actually put on the website. I left it for cable. I'm not sure if it's on cable yet, but there's a big blurb on our website. You can actually download the application. I have the applications in the foyer area when you first come into the town hall, that area there. There's always, I always say that every day, there's some there. I can email them to people. They're on the state website. You can download them there. And you can email them back to me. You can drop them in the Dropbox. You can mail them to me. If you do email them to me, I have to be able to read the signature. If they're not signed, I can't send out a ballot. So we that information out a couple of weeks ago. There is quite a bit on our Dayton website. I'm thinking if there's any other place you think you want me to put it,
Well, Sue, you did
I
the
will.
press release with Guilfoyle. You did the press release.
Oh, that's
with
right.
Mallory.
Mallory did put it with them
all the
also, right, Mallory?
There
Am I
it is.
mistaken?
There it is.
I
Yeah.
just cut and pasted that into the Zoom group chat for those
Oh,
departments.
thank you.
Absolutely. For those departments that have a lot of public engagement, if you want to just jot that down, you can share it. You can email it out to anybody who asks. So that's there for you. And I think they did a good job about easily explaining that.
Sue, I got a question.
Yeah.
So it costs 85 cents to mail it out. What does it cost to mail it back? Regular first class postage?
Yes. There is part of that legislature that's out there right now, not so much for our annual town election, but for the primary and the November election, they're working with the post office right now to not have people have to pay to send them back. So
Okay.
we're suggesting to people, drop it in the Dropbox, to save yourself the postage for this election, our election. But that is one of the things that they're working on right now at the state legislature level with the post office is to people not have to pay postage to send it back. It's
Okay.
85 cents to send out because it's a little thicker. There's 2 envelopes. There's
Yeah.
some literature in there. So, but when the people are sending it back, I think it's just 50 cents. I'm sorry, what is it right now?
55.
55, yeah, because when we mail stuff out from the machine, it's 50 cents. So like 55 cents. So
But
yeah,
people-
it's just normal postage. It's like I said, it's 85 to mail them out because 2 envelopes, the literature, so there's a little more in there.
But they can use the Dropbox to return it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Alice, do you think maybe we could stick something in the Strawberry Vine about this too? Do we have time for your next publication?
Sorry, go ahead, Mallory, can you repeat that again?
I know, my volume sinks. I probably have used this to death. I apologize.
No,
I
that's
was
okay.
asking if Alice could put something about the mail-in voting. If I sent you some information, could you put that into the Strawberry Vine? Is there enough time between the election and your next issue?
We'll be sending it out on the 15th, and I don't know if it'll be back before that. So we don't know when we'll get it back from the printer and be able to mail it. And we're going to do a very small version of the Strawberry Vine because it's just not lucrative to do it.
Okay, Selectman Goulart told me that there's a bulletin board of sorts at Lincoln Village.
There is a board there, yes, that you can be posted.
So maybe,
And
yeah.
I could give Alice some blank forms if she wants also.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
we
that's,
can put some on the table there and they can pick them up when they come for their mail.
yeah, that'd be great.
That works.
All right.
We can do that. All right, very good. That's exactly what these meetings are for, the solution. Okay, the spending freeze continues, and then I do want to open up the floor, I guess, to any questions that you guys might have following around. Don't be shy. We're usually so quiet at these.
Hey, Mallory, I do have a question. Mary and I did touch base a little bit yesterday, talked about a little bit about when we do open, about everybody coming back, how, our little areas just are on top of each other, going to the window together. We're all using the same we're really in each other's face. And so at some point, could we get Mary and I sit with you to go into a little more depth, what we think might work, so forth and so forth?
Absolutely. So that's our MO, I guess, what we're going to be doing as part of the task force, because we want to make sure that we don't really miss anybody. We want to make sure everyone's safe, comfortable, and we're really doing everything we can to be smart about this.
Good.
And, I want to echo, Jim, thanks for saying it. To me, I'm just so thankful for everybody that sometimes I forget to say it. So I apologize. I think everybody's been amazing. I'm incredibly impressed with the town of Dayton's ability to transfer to a remote platform on just about everything. And that took a lot of moving parts. That took a lot of people. That took some money. And I just, thank you to everybody. I have been a little lax on my town of Dayton employee emails. I think I've only sent out like 3 or 4, but I don't want to I'm getting inundated with emails, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I don't want to overdo it, but please do let your employees know that they are very valued here, and we are a well-run machine because of them. And I appreciate all that they do.
And we appreciate what you've been doing, Mallory. I know that you've been so busy, so involved, and no matter whatever we need, you're always available. So I wanted to big thank you to you also.
Thank you.
We all echo those sentiments. Thank you very much. You're doing a fantastic job, and that goes out to everyone, including in town. I've had great interactions with everybody through this process. I just want to ask a quick question that I asked before, and Mr. Pilling had answered for me. I know that the guidance is going to be given down from the state to reopen parks and playgrounds, but will there be any type of posting on our cable TV to let the residents know exactly what that is going to entail?
This is our general way. We post on social media. We do a story through Guilfoyle. We engage the Gazette. We make announcements at the selectmen's meetings and send to cable for notices. And the ease by which we are able to virtually, so when we do these Zoom meetings, it's very simple. I know it's time consuming for cable, but they have done an amazing job of quickly updating our meetings. So we're able to get our message out, but we'll continue that, absolutely. And whenever we do get guidance, we're very quick to share all of that with our residents, with our folks that work here and our volunteers and our boards. So that will continue, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mallory,
Yes.
I have a question. Who are the members on the task force?
Chief McGee, myself, Jim Aguirre, and Todd Pilling. It was born out of the Emergency Management Planning Committee. We did a quick gathering.
Okay, thank you.
I have a general question, and it's for Kerry, Chief McGee, Todd, Selectman Goulart, Mr. Pyers, I think that, and Mr. Aguirre. So Mallory and I are working on the business guide. There are certain sections that involve things like the zoning bylaws, Board of Health procedures, permits that they hand out for certain businesses that want to open up. Obviously, fire does inspections, and they play a certain role in it as well. And so when we're done, would it be possible for us to send you the rough draft so that you can proofread your relevant sections? They're very short, only a page or two, just for accuracy.
Of course. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's
No problem at all.
stormwater as well, Selectman Goulart. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you assembling all of that. So those people, especially Carrie, gave me a bunch of flow charts and such, if you'll remember. So Red is parsing those together. I appreciate it.
I love flow charts.
Yeah, they're very
really,
helpful.
it's gonna look really good, and just not just proofread it for accuracy, but if you have suggestions and edits, we will happily take those as well.
Okay.
The labor of love. Okay, any other reopening questions or anything? How you guys doing? Everybody doing well?
Surviving.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
A little stir crazy. You know what I love about these meetings in general is I love seeing like where people's workstations are in their home.
Oh Lord, no.
I do.
I've got
Like
toys
last
in the
night.
back and a dog. Oh my God.
Last night I was marveling on, I assume it was your wife, John Gray, the decor, the curtains where you were streaming from was a pretty cool, cool spot.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you can credit that to my wife. I had no say in that whatsoever. But I did have a say in my buy fresh, buy a local poster.
Yeah,
Which
I saw it. I noticed that.
I love that.
Very good.
So I do have one issue. Are we going off and just doing some departmental things right now?
Sure.
I don't want to jump ahead.
Okay.
We're still on the other thing. I just wanted to bring up one thing. I've been able to get ready for our public hearings for our annual town meeting and warrant articles. Nancy, this is more directed towards you with the Miller's Lane. excuse me, road acceptance. I've been able to get the publication put in for Miller's Lane for our public hearing on that. We are gonna have our public hearing on June 3rd. And so with that being said, what I just need from you right now, well, not right now, but in order for that to move forward, I will just need a copy of the road description and a copy of the plan available. You can get it to me by email. That'll be suffice, no later than May 19th. So
You're gonna have it today.
awesome. So
Yeah.
I was going to give a little update on two projects that Tom Ferry and I are, one wrapping up and one trying to complete. So Miller's Lane. I have the order of taking, I just got to verify a dollar amount, and I'll do that after this meeting because the book is at Town Hall. I just want to match the dollars in that order of taking with the document that the parties sign. And then I can give that to Mallory, Karen, so it'll be part of the package. The Board of Selectmen will act on voting the order of taking at our next meeting. And then we have 30 days to get it recorded along with the Mylar copies. Carrie, did you check out the Anderson Drive question that Roy Delano had? In other words, how it connects, it kind of turns the corner and actually connects Miller's Lane.
So Tom Ferry and I were going through that at one point, and it's really spotty, and being able to go through our old records. And
Well, what we know is Anderson Drive was accepted by the town of Dayton.
yep,
And all Roy wanted to know was, because when he looked it up, it seemed to turn the corner, and from everything we can find, it does. So based on that, I'll ask Tom to get in touch, Tom Ferry to get in touch with Roy and tell him to draft those, get us those Mylar plans based on the current information. What I'm going to give to you, Carrie, I actually showed to Mr. Rhines last week. There's 2 pages. The color-coded page is the actual taking. The second page is the rest of the lane that the town accepted way back when. But anyhow, I'm going to drop all of that off, so you will have it today after I check those dollars. So that's where we are with Miller's Lane. And once it's recorded, we're all done with that project. As far as the other project, Tom and I are working on the sidewalk complete street things. I got 3 more people that we can pay. And then Tom and I are going to have to do some, I guess, site visits, because people have received certified letters and have not responded. So, but we're moving ahead with this because we don't want the project held up. So that's moving along well.
but just to be clear, right now, we're just doing the acceptance of Miller's Lane.
Correct. Oh yeah, we're not, these
We're not
other
doing
ones,
anything
no.
with Anderson.
The push for the Complete Streets project is so Tom and his crew and the contractor can actually start this summer.
I see.
So,
Okay.
so we won't be doing an order of taking on that project until it's done, meaning constructed, and then we'll get all the information and go from there. But there won't be need for a public hearing or anything like that, because all of the roads we're working on are accepted roads. So this is just an order of taking and plans that the Board of Selectmen will act on sometime in the future, probably in the fall, my guess is. So,
Okay.
but I will get you that this afternoon.
Okay, that'd be perfect. So
Okay.
that way we can have that available for anyone who might want to see it before our public hearing.
Right, and the good thing is the color-coded section that Tommy marked up and gave to me is excellent, because you can see all the landowners and everything. So it's really good.
Perfect. Okay, so, and then the other question that I had, and Tom Ferry, this is in relation to you and I with discussions, as well as Stormwater Committee, Todd. So as you know, with Marion Ave,
Maris Lane?
um,
Maris Lane, Kerry, or?
No, Marion Ave. So
Oh,
this
and
is
it's,
with,
that's Brook,
what's that?
and
Yes,
that's the Brook up that way.
Marion Ave and Estabrook.
Estabrook, in the Estabrook area. So I got a call from the resident who's having the problem with the drainage. And as you know, I have been trying to make numerous phone calls to the developer in the hopes that he has that drainage easement language and whatnot, trying to get all of that was done many years ago, and to no avail. So I'm not sure how you want to go forward with this, because now I've got the residents asking for the contact information for the developer so he can start making some phone calls to him as well. And Nancy, I know you and I had talked a while back too about in the hopes that he had that language somewhere in his documents that he could just forward and we can record it. But I'm not getting anywhere with the developer. So I'm not sure how we want to move forward, whether we hire our own attorney to come up with this information and do it, or if we keep pressing. Tom Ferry, I know at some point, because it was ELJ in Bristol, if I don't have the file in front of me, so I'm kind of going off the top of my head of who these people were.
Can you guys have like a break off session?
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Kerry, you and Tom and I will get together. When you have a chance, pull that folder. And I'm going to be at Town Hall shortly after this meeting today. But definitely certainly by 1 o'clock. If Tom is free, don your mask and let's plan to stop by Kerry's office and see how much of this we can take care of.
So what time are you thinking after 1?
1 o'clock. Does that work for you, Tom, Kerry?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So everybody mask up, and 1 o'clock we'll head out and rob a bank. And so we'll be in Kerry's office.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So I got just a couple of things that involves Mary, Chris, and Mallory.
What are you going to be shopping?
Go ahead, Mr. Ferry.
Yes, it's
30
actually,
minutes.
as
Why
we're
off
trying to
again?
keep tight budget, tight ship. I do have some 4th Street projects involve paving, which is they're reimbursable, but Mary's got to cough up the money first. And so that's 375,000. And Mallory, what's the number for the complete streets? That's all going to happen about the same time.
All of it, include all 3 projects, is 277,442.
Okay, so we'll try to keep pushing reimbursements as invoices come in, so we're not owed so much, but all of us got to start being ready and communicate well with that moving forward.
I would love for this to be paid out of the current Sursage contract because all of the supplies are going up, like by a lot, significantly.
They should, yes.
So I have a question.
That's how quick it's going to happen.
Good. Good news.
It happen before July, so Mary's going to get grouchy and Chris is going to try to catch up to us.
Mary never gets grouchy.
No, exactly.
Mr. Ferry, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In regards to your paving contractor, is there any possibility we could have that individual go doing the North Dayton Playground? Because there is monies that have been encumbered to have that facility paved.
It is a possibility, yes.
Outstanding. Could you coordinate with me when that time does come, please?
Yes, I don't have a paving date yet.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Tom, as always.
I have some, I'm sorry, I forgot to say something. As we move forward with the budget process, the finance committee, they haven't asked us to revise any requests or anything like that, but if you could have that in the back of your mind, if there's anything you could go without, just to consider that and think about it. And then for FY20 numbers in your budget, if you have any, I've spoken to Chris Laviolette, and he and I are going to share Google Doc and kind of keep track of different lines that have excess money that could help us in transfers, like that Sue needs. I know Mary needs one for Medicare. We're going to be low, and I think unemployment might be a little bit high or overspent a bit. So if you have any lines in your budgets that you could kind of offer up for transfers, just be mindful of those because I might come asking. I have a couple in mind. I know Chris Laviolette can go through the whole budget, but if you know anything off the top of your head that could be used for this, that would be great.
I got a question for Chris Laviolette.
Okay.
Chris, if you haven't already, and you may already have a handle on this, would you check any of the special warrant articles that have money in them that might be leftovers that at the town meeting, if we don't need that money for whatever it was originally designated, it could be transferred and freed up?
I have an article like that. That's a great idea. I have one I could.
Yeah, I know. And I think Tom Ferry might have something, but sometimes there's, you know, a few $100 or $1,000 and they're just out there hanging, and we should take the action to close them out.
Nancy, what I'll do, what I propose to do, because I owe everybody their month-end reports for April, I'll run a separate report on everybody's articles to review with me, and we can isolate those articles with, you know, there's going to be some leftover funds that we can repurpose.
Okay. Okay. And if anyone has a balance in a special article account, the money can only be spent exactly for what the town meeting voted the purpose was. So if you have $500 in a particular equipment account, special article, you can't go out and buy office supplies. So you just need to know that when you, I'll say, reconcile your warrant articles with Chris, if it's not directly part of the original vote, it's going to get closed out.
Nancy, is that by bylaw here in Dayton? Because that's not actually the case. The only instance where you have to repurpose the money in the same way is if we borrow the funds. But if you're funding from free cash or from taxation for those special articles, that money could be repurposed for any reason.
No, that's not what you mean.
No, that's not what I mean. For example, I'll pick on the police department.
Whoa!
Whoa! So let's assume.
Hey, thanks for weighing in, Chief.
Okay. So let's assume there was $50,000 appropriated for a cruiser and all the equipment and stuff that goes with a cruiser. And they got the cruiser and there's $1,000 left in the account. Well, the cruiser, according to the town meeting vote, with all peripherals, it's complete, they're all set, but there's $1,000. In the past, you could not spend that $1,000 to buy, like I said, office supplies. The money we would close out the article, then the money would become available for use by the town. That's what we've done in the past.
Yes, okay, now, yes, okay.
All right, okay.
My thought on that, and would this be, would this be possible if we had those accounts all lined up, we could vote at a special town meeting. Like if we had any deficit, we could vote at the special town meeting to transfer those funds. It might be a little complicated, but we could take those appropriations and reassign them at the special before the annual. But that's like a backup plan, I guess.
Right, but I think, yeah, I think there's without looking specifically at the regs, yeah. Yes, I think the process would be two steps. We would close out the warrant article, which would free up the money, and then you would either do it then, or what would happen is it would close out to free cash and become available to use, you know, in the new fiscal year. But yeah, we can certainly vote to close out any unexpended money that cannot be used according to the original article vote.
I have a question. Madam Administrator, I have a question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Do we have an anticipated date for lifting the spending freeze?
No.
June 30th.
Okay, thank you.
June 30th at midnight.
I'm hoarding it all, basically, so that we don't have a, you know, we can pay our bills essentially and keep going for as long as we can. If you have
midnight, June 30th.
So, wait a minute now. I'm not sure if I get the answer I wanted to hear. Now, are you saying that we are on a spending freeze until after the 18th of May?
No, until further notice. So here's our conundrum. We don't have real figures from the state. We have scary news. We have $3 billion shortfall. So for us, and what I had recommended to the finance committee is they take the local aid figure of last year and they just lessen it by 10%. And I calculate that figure for them and base a budget around anticipating a 10% less of what we generally receive in local aid. And we're being very conservative on new growth estimates and revenues, even though Jim tells me he's got a lot of turn-ins, which I totally agree with, because I look around my own house and I'm like, maybe we should do all of these projects. So I think that until we get some more like strong guidance and like real figures from the state, we really need to just sit and wait and just keep on this critical spending only, or, you know, contractual obligation only, and no more discretionary spending. I know for your department that means not doing anything essentially. So we can have, as I said before, communication is a big deal here. It's critical. So if we need to sit down and talk about that, we can, and then go from there. But it is until further notice, because we just don't have the information readily available to make a sound decision, and we just have to wait. And nobody likes that. We just have to wait.
Thank you.
You know, I don't want to scare anybody, but Tom Pius will remember this. Sometime between 2007 and 2010, about this time of the year, it was April or May, we were notified by the state that the town of Dayton and other communities would not get their final local aid payment from the state. To the town of Dayton, that was $83,000 that we were not going to get, that we had planned on. And Tom Pius will remember that he and I sat down, we contacted all department heads and said, have you got any money in your budget that you can put towards this $83,000? And then Tom and I sat down and went through the entire budget until we were actually able to come up with $83,000 that we would not spend to get us through the end of the year without us going into a deficit. Now, I'm not saying that the state could again not send us a payment, but as Mrs. Aaronstein said, this whole thing is so volatile. It changes, it seems, from day to day. And this very conservative approach to freeze everything except what you have to pay is really the only way to proceed at this point. We don't like doing it, but not only have we got to get through this year, but we're all worried about FY21.
Agreed, Mrs. Goulart, because Mr. Laviolette has given me some information in regards to CPC monies through the DLS, and they're anticipating that receipts through the Registry of Deeds are going to be way down because of what's happened with the COVID. So we're basically losing 1/4 of a budget year, or possibly more. So I understand the situation.
Thank you.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, yeah, Tom.
Okay, is there any other comments, concerns, questions?
If I may, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, that's
No,
all right.
go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris. You go first. I'll go after
Just
you.
wanted to thank everybody for their patience and their cooperation with placing all of their bills, payrolls, and turnovers in the boxes that I've placed outside. I think going forward, once we start opening up, I'd like to keep that procedure in place. If nobody takes objection, it'll minimize the amount of bodies here in the office when Linda and I are both here. We're both in the vulnerable population, and I'd appreciate everybody's concern and cooperation in that regard. And for those of you that are passing stuff along electronically, I appreciate it. Did have a little momentary blip there with a special duty payroll a couple weeks back, but I'm taking care of it. But otherwise, it's been working really well. And again, I appreciate all the cooperation and your understanding.
This is Alice. This is Alice. I wanted to know if Susan could get that material together and I could take it up to Lincoln Village and put it on the table so the people up there can take the ballots that they need, or the forms. Thank you.
Sue has popped off the call, Alice, but I will work with her and we'll be in touch.
All righty, thank you. Okay.
Jim?
Okay, Mallory, I don't want to repeat something that you're going to say, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about us moving into a different type of daily routine, not just because of, obviously it's triggered by what's in front of us now, but we've also learned that we're still able to keep things operating, doing things much differently than we're used to. So with that said, I'll bring up a few points and then you can elaborate if you'd like. In the task force meeting, we talked about exactly what Chris just alluded to, drop boxes. If people can conduct business without coming face to face with a town employee, then we're going to encourage that. We're certainly not going to deter it. That's why we're buying the virus guards and shields. But we think that people will take advantage of drop boxes and having less social interaction. Moreover, most of you know, I tried years ago to be ahead of the curve with online permitting, and it's worked out fairly well, but I've not been able to implement a major phase of it. That was brought up in the meeting because, of course, in times like this, having that ability is paramount. So the town administrator has agreed to make it a priority to make sure the online permitting is not just implemented in earnest, but also looked upon and expanded into other departments where allowed. All being said, I have some new information since the task force last met. There is a way for me to implement my online permitting without receiving credit card payments while we're working through the logistics in getting the EFT payment system online. So I am going to work with the software company to remove the payment button, allow people to apply online, and then mail or drop off the payment. Certainly it's not how I wanted to do it, but I think it's sort of like an opportunity for us to do a beta rollout to make sure this is going to work while we're working on the back end to get the EFT portion done. All that said, I'd like to leave you with the following. Brett, I know you're instrumental in the town's website, so I'd like to work with you in the next 7 to 10 days to make a button available on the website that would bring people directly to the online permitting portal. And with my experience in web design, 2 clicks is the maximum that you want to do, or people get frustrated. So I don't necessarily think it needs to be on the front page, but if you and I can converse via email, I'd love for you to help me get that done so we can roll this out. Absolutely. The other thing I'd like to, Absolutely. Good, thank you. The other thing I'd like to leave all the departments with is the thought that when I went out and searched for permitting software, I made sure that other departments were going to be able to piggyback and utilize this software to aid in electronic permitting for others. So I would encourage everyone to stop and think about how this could benefit your department, and can we work on a system or a plan to maybe fast track some electronic implementation for permitting, where right now in this current situation, we all, including the consumer, would benefit tremendously from it.
Jim, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I love that you have been the person who's really championed this, and I really appreciate it, and I mean that. My question for you is, one of the advantages I see to an online permitting system, and I'm sure you've considered this as well, is that the office manager or whoever is in the department at the time that a resident would show up with an application for a permit doesn't have to drop everything. If the individual or the resident is applying for the permit online, and then that information is transmitted to the office manager or whoever the staff is in the office at the time, they are able to continue their work, whatever they're working on, and then get to the permit when they have a moment, rather than having to drop everything when that person shows up in the office.
Exactly. Well put. That's exactly one of, obviously there are other benefits, but that is one of the primary benefits, is the increase in efficiency and oversight.
On both ends,
Now,
on both sides of
go
the,
ahead.
of that.
Right, exactly. Agreed. So, so I know we all realize how important it is. I know we all realize we want to get it done. I've talked with my office manager. We're actually going to reach out to contractors next week and roll out the ability to do online permitting with the alternative payment allowance while we're working on the back end stuff internally for the EFTs. But I would use this opportunity to have other departments start to think about how we can possibly benefit you by having a similar program in place, and the foundation is built. So now we just need to spin off of that. So thank you all for your listening and for your help.
Great, Jim, thank you. I want to piggyback on what you're saying because it leads into my one comment about this. And Chris LaViolette did it. It's the same kind of premise. If you in your department need to change a process to better manage the risk and mitigate the risk of COVID-19, I implore you to do it. You are all smart, capable people. I respect you all, so you can do what your department needs to do and just make sure it works. Like, just make sure it works. It's not a burden, and it's not like eliminating somebody from being able to conduct business. But if you need something that helps you, your staff, your office, your procedure, you should do it. And this is a great idea for like conservation. All of those members are in the vulnerable population. So I thank you, Jim, for being so willing to kind of be the hub of that project. My second comment related to this is if you have procedures that are changing based upon our urge to conduct electronic or remote business, you should write those down. We can publish them. We can publish them online. You don't have to answer a million phone calls. We'll just get them all together and the person can, it's kind of like a mini business guide. This is what we're doing now and this is how we're making it safe. And if we can get that out there from all the departments, it'll be a great way to educate our populace and they can feel comfortable and confident we're doing all we can to ensure safety of everybody.
May I make a general comment on that, Madam Administrator?
Of course, yes.
So if any department is thinking about having some simple forms be electronic rather than a resident printing it out and bringing it to town hall or having to email it as a PDF, let me know. I can help you with that. I have created electronic forms for the website before, so just let me know if that's something that you're thinking about that would make your life a little bit easier. So I'm available. I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Brett? Yeah, sorry, Valerie, if I may, just to piggyback on Brett's conversation. So one of the things that we've discussed is possibly getting something a little more robust than Adobe Acrobat Reader.
Yes.
Right now, I've been testing a program called Foxit Pro. Right now, I'm using the free version. It's a cheaper alternative to the full version of Adobe. Basically, you can take existing paper documents, scan them in, and make them a fillable document using, the more robust version. I'll have a proposal for Mallory shortly. I've tested 3 different products, but I like this one the best so far. And we can make it available to everybody for everybody's use.
Right, for townwide. Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Yeah, it would be townwide, yes.
Thank you. I know you've been working on that for a while, so thank you.
Mallory, I'll just add to that as well. As I've actually used a website called Doc Hub, which allows you to insert fillable forms. So someone can basically type in an answer to a question that they would normally have to handwrite and then fax or whatever. So that's another option as well that I've had success with.
It's called DocuSign?
Doc Hub, DOCHUB.
All right, so Jocelyn's putting in DocuSign. So it looks like we've got lots of options. I can't speak and talk at the same time. I can't speak and write at the same time. Doc Hub, thank you. Mr. Rhines, I know you've been waiting.
Just a minute, yeah, Chris, would you just repeat the name of that software again, please?
Yeah, it's, sorry, I've got it, I'm gonna pull up my screen here real quick, Nancy. It's called Foxit Phantom PDF, F-O-X-I-T, Phantom, P-H-A-N-T-O-M PDF.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr.
There's a free version available, Nancy. If you want to try it for yourself, you can replace it and try it in place of Adobe. It's pretty good stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Administrator, this is just something completely separate from what everyone's just discussed. I just want to take this time with my interactions with our local police department, our animal control officer, is, you know, I've had the situations where I've made a few phone calls to these departments and they have come out in regards to, you know, policing and patrolling our parks and playgrounds. Our hat from Park and Rec is off to these people. I'd also like to give a shout out to Mrs. Brady being so patient, always waiting for the CPC to come in with our warrant article. So I'd like her to know that. So thank you, Mrs. Brady.
If I could just interject for a second. So this order that's been issued by the governor, the enforcement falls squarely on the shoulders of the Board of Health. It is not on the police. It is not on the Board of Selectmen. It is on the Board of Health. We are the ones that issue fines. We are the ones that kick people off. So don't call the police every time you see somebody down there. You call the Board of Health. Obviously, we're not necessarily as set up as the police are for doing this type of enforcement, which is why we put chains up around the playgrounds or took the swings down and that kind of thing. But this is not something Board of Health are usually dealing with. When we get into restaurants and businesses, we can pull licenses as an enforcement measure. But to go up to somebody on the street and say, hey, I'm giving you a citation for $300 because you're not wearing a mask is going to be almost impossible. So I just want everybody to be aware.
But the AG's guidance basically like it forces not in a bad way, but forces the Board of Health and the police department to be a partner in that.
Yeah,
like it gives you the criminal enforcement, the law enforcement backing. I just want that clear, that it's not solely on you and you have resources available to be effective in that role.
We do, but it's like you say, the police kids can't go up to somebody and arrest them for not wearing a mask is what I'm trying to say. That's all.
It's a citation. It's basically like a parking ticket. Unless it explodes into something more.
But how does that work with communities who have already said via their board of selectmen or mayors that they're going to say, hey, $300 fine in Revere, $300 fine in Winthrop. So unless the town of Dayton comes down with a directive to say that the board of selectmen has voted ahead to fine people, how does that work? I just need a little help on it.
We don't. Did you say fire people?
No. What I'm saying is that what happens in the case where, yes, you're fining people, like Revere has made it mandatory to wear a mask, okay? And that's been written down by their mayors prior to the governor's directive. So how is that going to work with local police departments?
The governor's order allows all municipalities and localities to issue a $300 fine. What Todd is saying is that it's the Board of Health domain. This whole thing's a public health crisis, so it's the Board of Health domain. And my only point was, you have resources available to be effective in the administration of this order. That's all.
Thank you.
Mallory,
Yes.
I have a question for Chief McDonald.
Yes, Nancy.
Not to rile the waters, but tell me, with this quarantine and everything else, has the speeding problems that have been discussed for a period of time in this town, have they abated a little, or are people still driving like nuts around town?
They are still driving like nuts around town, but as far as the complaints coming in, they're not really, we're not getting as many as we did before. We're still getting a couple on Forest Street that we've dealt with before. But other than that, I mean, people are still flying around. There's still a lot of cars around. I can see that, you know?
Yeah.
It hasn't really slowed up there.
Right.
It's still a big problem coming down Elm Street. Big problem coming down Elm Street, especially there's big trucks there that going up somewhere with sand, and they come down there like, oh, Harry.
Yeah, that is a problem over there.
Did we ever put a sign up over there, Tom, or we don't? Oh, never mind. We had a conversation with them. Okay, anything else relative to COVID-19 and our reopening strategies?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Tom Barry.
not so much to the town, but it affects us is how is the task force involved with the community events that's going to happen?
No, We literally have just assembled and had a meeting like 2 days later, so we're babies right now. We're in our infancy. We can.
I understand that.
assemble it.
So I wouldn't expect you guys to meet with every community entity, but I imagine you'd want to at least set up a policy or procedure for that application review, like for the town hall field, stuff like that.
So I would say we're kind of by default closed because the governor, you can't assemble more than 10 people right now.
I'm talking about for the summer.
If I can interject.
Todd?
So the governor's order applies to gatherings over 10 people in a confined space. So for example, in June, we have a car show that is coming to behind Town Hall. That is an open space that is unconfined. So therefore the governor's order does not apply. This is when we get into proper social distancing. Obviously people aren't touching the cars, so it's not a contamination surface. So it's an event right now we are allowing to happen unless something changes, but right now it's being allowed to happen.
But masks, right?
Yeah, but you still have to do the social distancing and all that. The event can happen. It's like town meeting. If you wanted to have town meeting out on the field and everybody sitting in chairs 6 feet apart, have at it. It's as soon as you put them inside a building is where we run into a problem.
Thank you.
Todd, are you talking about the first cruise night?
I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, it's the veterans, the one that Tony Rosario.
Yeah. Okay, yeah,
you're right.
cruise night.
No, it's not Tony's. It's somebody else's.
Excuse me, the young lady that did the car show for the cancer, she had contacted me and
That's right,
canceled
it's a
that right
charity.
now.
Flies of Hope,
Yeah.
I think it's called.
It's a
Yeah.
charity.
So
Yeah, she had,
before the Board of Selectmen? And I missed that?
She did.
She did,
yeah,
yes.
She did, yeah. It
Yeah,
was a
we
while
approved
ago,
it.
though.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a
she did
charity.
very
It's
early.
right.
Yeah.
It's a fundraiser
Yeah.
for a charity, and we did approve it. And it seems to me it was right around the time we approved cruise nights too. Just to follow up on what Tom Ferry brought up. Tom, has the Lions set what they hope is a date for cow chip this year?
So, yeah, it's gonna be like mid-August. But
Yeah, there
there's
we go.
also a conflicting car show that same night, so we wanted, the car show would probably happen. But we're gonna need some guidance on an actual carnival, if that's gonna happen or not.
When you say car show, do you mean the Vietnam Vets cruise night?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
but we
So
could,
Todd, do you think, based on what you just said about being outdoors but maintaining distances, does it appear that some semblance of the Cow Chip Festival might be allowed?
Yes. However, if we start getting into like lines of people, like waiting to get on one of the carnival rides or whatever, obviously we gotta have 6 foot spacing. You're gonna have to deal with sanitizing rides and everything. I'm not saying the rules are gonna be good enough that, or again, they might be so strict you don't wanna do the event, but there will be some semblance of the event that could happen, yes.
Is food a problem?
No?
Okay.
so back to the questions, are we directed towards the task force, or we are gonna be looking for the
We'll
guidance?
probably reach out to you.
Okay.
We have a meeting set up with Prime. So right now I'm focused, well, this is just me. I'll speak just myself. I'd like to meet with Prime Time as we have scheduled, and I'd like to meet with the library. And then we'll start going to outside groups, but point taken, we have to get a move on if they're scheduled.
Obviously, the town functions are more important at this point.
Right.
And then the other thing is we have, what, still eight churches in town too that are waiting to open too.
Right. I need the governor's plan. I need to pick his brain.
Yep.
Tom Pyers, you have had your hand raised a couple of times.
I did, yes. I wanted to talk about the face covering for a moment to address that. There's a couple of loopholes in the governor's order that I think we ought to consider before we get out there and going crazy and start fining everybody. Number one, the matter of health. You know, people will say, well, I have a health problem and I can't breathe. And we are not required, or we are not allowed to have them demonstrate that that's a problem. The second thing is, if we have a group of people that aren't wearing masks, but they are social distancing, and we have to be aware too that that's not a problem. So I think it's going to be very difficult to enforce and fine anybody under those circumstances. So, I'm just giving a fair warning, I think, before we get out there and start fining people over this. And that's all I wanted.
I mean, I appreciate those comments. I think this is important for me to say. I don't expect you guys to be walking out there like meter maids and issuing fines at all.
Okay.
If something unsafe is going on, yes, we have to address it. It's our duty to keep the town safe. But if somebody's, like, we've been pretty, I think, very okay with our track behind Town Hall. For the most part, people have been following the rules. And so everyone's well aware that as of yesterday, wearing a mask in public is required. The governor is saying that if you're exercising, he thinks you should wear one. I have my own thoughts about that, but I think for the most part, people in Dayton, especially our residents, are very reasonable. They want to do what's right, and I think we won't have these major problems. We're not a big,
Wait, so can I ask a question? So when I go on my jog daily, I am now expected to wear a mask. I can barely do without one when I
or urged, but every runner I know is like, there's no way I'm doing that.
That's not it's just not. There's no one out there. Like, who am I infecting? There's no one else out there. I see.
Also, you're breathing
on the other side of the road. She's 20 feet apart from me. That's the only person I see.
You're, after a while, breathing in carbon dioxide back in. You're not getting enough oxygen to your lungs. So
The same way riding a bike. You're urged, but you don't have to.
you're urged. Urged.
Yeah, you might want to, if you're wearing a mask and you're jogging.
$300 fine.
I think the only problem that's going to arise is if you go down to advise someone and they disagree and they absolutely refuse to do it or refuse to separate, then I think fines are in order.
Okay. Mr. Pacheco?
Wait. Isn't it true that if you're social distancing, you don't have to wear a mask? Correct.
That's what it says.
Well, I assume, Brett, that you're running by yourself, and you don't have to wear a mask.
So what I've told,
That's my understanding.
so what I've been telling people is the way I'm treating it is like when you go canoeing. You have to have the life preserver with you, but you don't have to wear it, the life jacket. If you're going running, have the mask with you, because if you get near somebody, you need to put the mask on.
Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Great advice. That's it.
Somebody is fined. Who gets to keep the fine money?
Me. We always got him.
Whoever issues the fine.
Hey, hey, Ken, my thought is,
Deficit, can we?
Yes.
Can we put that towards our deficit?
Special revenue.
hey, Ken, my thought is, give me a book of those citations, and every time Brett runs by my house, I'm going to go out there, and if he hasn't got his mask, it's $300 to the good of the town.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
If I may.
This is Goulart, the police station.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes, if I may, Dr. Zagrafis, if you do wear a mask and you are out jogging, you may want to bring a blood gas monitor with you to check your oxygen level.
Correct.
I'm going to piggyback.
The other
I'm going
thing
to piggyback
is,
on Nancy's comment relative to the handing out tickets. Why don't we take the George Carlin method and get the plastic guns with the rubber darts on them and put a dumb sign on the dart. You can go out and shoot Brett and have it stick on him. If he gets enough dumb signs on him, he'll know that he's violating the law.
well, my other
I don't think
thought
that's
is,
the word that George Carlin used, but it was something like that.
my other thought is, if Brett is running with a mask and he keels over near my house, I'm going to call 911, and then the fire department can come out and pick him up, and we can bill for a run.
So if you're a department,
to pay.
if you're a department out there who is very much requesting a meeting with the pandemic task force, the reopening task force, can you just like raise your hand or raise the hand on the Zoom stuff, just so we can put everybody in an organized manner? Oh my gosh, nobody wants to meet with us. Anybody?
I'm sorry, can you
Yes?
restate, can you state that
Yeah,
question?
could you repeat?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can everybody, you can see my big face here. If you are a department interested in meeting with the task force, like you have a specific interest and you don't want to wait to us to quote unquote get to you, like we already have a schedule with the primetime folks, yep, library, yes, just raise your hand or tell me if you're on the phone, and we will kind of put you in a preferential prioritized list. So I've
Yeah, I
got
think,
time is next
yeah,
week. Yes, Mr. Ryan?
yes, I think Park and Rec would want to be included with that because of, you know, we have a lot of apparatuses in town that are, you know, of plastic, you know, surfaces, that type of thing. So we're going to need the proper guidance from, you know, the BOH in order to get this done. So I know that the kids are going to chomp at the bit to get in these playgrounds. So
I think it would be more the parents, right? If they're anything like me, trying to get them to go. Anybody else? Specific concerns?
Mallory.
You and Mary had, Yes?
Mallory,
Yes.
can is it possible, I'm not sure if the other board members want to, but is it possible to have the Board of Selectmen participate or at least watch the task meeting so that we are kind of up to date with what's going on in town?
So that's my job to provide you an up-to-date, like we're trying to get this in a nice little package delivered for your May 13th meeting, where you'll see these draft operating procedures and vote on them. But if you want to be a part of it, I was about to say this isn't going to be like a major thing. It might be one-on-one because we're kind of under the gun. But if you want to be there, I mean, I'll tell you the date. I'm with Nancy though, in this sense that I have so many things going on at the same time. My calendar, I mean, I apologize. It's just awful. So we have prime time next week. I can't remember the day, but it's at 1 o'clock.
Wednesday, 1 o'clock.
Wednesday at 1
June
o'clock.
13th. Yeah, May 13th.
What was that, Alice?
May 13th at 1 o'clock. At prime time.
I would like to be part of that.
It's in person.
Bring a mask.
Madam Administrator?
Yes.
My concern is if we all show up, then now it's a Board of Selectmen meeting and you have to post it.
And I have to record it. It's a whole bunch of other stuff.
The meeting is already, the meeting's already been posted. But the 9th person that walks in the door, we're closing it for after the 10th one.
I'm just saying, Alice, if more than one member of the Board of Selectmen plans to attend, then we'll have to post it. Selectman Goulart,
It's posted. I already posted it.
Alice, I'm saying it has to be posted as a Board of Selectmen's meeting as well.
No, it's not. It's just, it's a Council on Aging meeting.
That's what I'm saying. I'm asking.
Alice, what Brett is saying is correct. In effect, there would be 2 boards meeting simultaneously and both boards would have to post. You're posted, and what he's saying is that if there are at least 2 selectmen who want to attend, it would have to be posted. It's got nothing to do with what you've already done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's the time of the meeting?
You're doing it right, Alice. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
What,
All right.
What's the time of the meeting on the 13th?
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
We
1
really
p.m.
need to have that conversation.
At prime time.
We really need to have that conversation, and I don't want to see it closed down because we have over 10 people.
Well, we could always be able to go outside.
Okay.
But whatever.
It doesn't go that way, but if, I can't.
All right, I've got MMA that day. I'm not sure I would be available anyhow. So I'm just saying, I would like to know what goes on, but I doubt that I'm going to show up.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to keep everybody in the loop as best I can, and I hold that information. Certainly.
Okay.
Madam Administrator, if there are too many people, could they not use the pavilion if it's a nice day?
Right, but the point is to be inside prime time and see about social distancing and where you set things up and like, okay, how do we do this safely? Like it's a little, I'm a visual learner, so maybe that's a problem for me only, but I like to see. Todd Pilling, you have your hand up.
Okay, if you split the group, Mallory, and do like, I'll call it, if we were in the prime time, if we were in the Lions Pavilion for the meeting, and then you split the group, some could go in and look at it and it could be explained, and then the other group could go in and look at it, then they could go back to the pavilion and discuss what they saw. So that might be a possibility.
The pavilion is considered a confined open space. You cannot have more than 10 people in it.
Okay, so they could be outside if in fact that happens, but whatever.
Well, I just want to
So
say that
Mallory,
I really think there's enough room inside prime time for at least 6 to 10 people.
Well, there's
But
4 of us on the
outside,
task force. If there's 4 of us on the task force and all of your board members come, plus you, Alice, we're at 9. So that's,
there would only be, I know I probably only have 4 of my board meetings and myself, so that'd be 5.
but
And
we're
then if
4.
you come
Yeah.
6, so I think that'll work out.
Todd?
4 members on our committee. That would bring us a total of 9.
Of 9, right.
Yeah. And we could social distance here because we can move the chairs around so that we are social distancing.
I do just want to throw out there as the health agent, having prime time open for that age group, which is the high risk category, I'm going to strongly lean towards delaying their opening.
For me, like, if the governor's doing this in phases, that's like the last phase because it's the most dangerous. I'm sorry, Chief McGee, we're going to say something?
Yeah, I just don't understand why, if we have a task force with 4 professionals on it, why can't we just get together and give guidance to the Board of Selectmen? We're not making any final decisions. It's just to give guidance to the board for them to make a final decision, correct?
Right.
I'm okay with that, Chief.
All right with me. As I said, I got a meeting that day anyhow, so I probably wouldn't be able to make this.
It's on the agenda for the selectmen's meeting anyway. It's part of what will be discussed that night.
Right, right. Our guidance will be given to the board for them to decide. Correct.
Thank you. All right, there were a lot of people talking there. Is there anybody that had a thought that didn't get to share it? Okay. All right, so I'm a simple email or phone call away if you do want to get on that short list of high priority departments, but right now, obviously, it's prime time and Sue and Mary, as they've requested today at this meeting, and then library and park and rec. So a simple email. Anything else, anyone?
Is there any chance, and Mallory, you and I touched on this briefly, Jocelyn, is there any chance of getting drop-off pickup service at the library? Because I know I read in the paper, and I thought it was Vermont is already doing it, where you'd call ahead and say, do you have any of these books? And I'd like to get such and such. Like, I've got 5 books here that you let me take that somebody might want to read.
I am awaiting guidance on how best to make the items safe to go back out to the public. It's
from guidance from whom? The governor?
No, from there's a study going on with the Institute of Museum and Libraries.
Oh, okay.
Also, isn't it, it's like a worry to cross-contaminate populations. I know that sounds terrible, but like if you open up and other communities don't open up, then you just get those communities.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of considerations. I've been studying a lot, as well as every one of my peers, on how best to offer library services right now. How long materials need to be quarantined when they come back. There's a on if it's 72 hours, if it's longer, if it's shorter. Is curbside materials stay safe? Do we want people out on the roads? So we're waiting to hear from the governor. I sent Jim it's pretty much, I don't know, it's almost like my thoughts on initial opening, pre-opening stages.
Yeah, Jocelyn, I did receive that, and I appreciate it. I plan on sharing it with the other task force members.
Right.
But this is the exact reason why prime time and your the library are the first two departments we're going to meet with because of the obvious. Those are the two most critical departments that are affected. So thank you.
Jocelyn, just some guidance for me personally. I have 5 books. I've read them. Is it okay if I wipe them down with a, disinfectant wipe, let it dry off, and then put them in a brand new, clean plastic bag and seal it up? So when the time comes, you'll only be dealing with the outside of a plastic bag.
We're not taking anything back right now.
No, when you do. In other words, if I can get these books ready and seal them up after,
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at having just things coming back through the book drop initially.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
when the time comes, that might be the way we're doing it, quarantining it through there. If the demand isn't so much, I don't know if the book drop will be big enough to contain all the things that people are anxious to bring back.
Okay.
I don't know. I expect we'll have to bring it in, seal them ourselves, quarantine it for a certain amount of time, and then see if the quarantine is enough. I'm still waiting for a lot of guidance. We don't know. We have ideas or guesses on how long the virus lives on certain materials, but it's being studied right now, and I don't know when those results are going to be coming back.
Okay. I just want you to know how much I miss go and get my books.
I know. And, basically, I think we'll probably have to start slow and look at some form of contactless curbside for the
Okay, thank you.
first steps, whenever it is.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered all of our bases. Correct me if I'm wrong, other task force members, and we will be reaching out with, meeting times, I guess, and ideas, and, just keep thinking about it. And again, I really mean it. I think the written procedures for how you are adapting to services in this new world will be very important and integral for us reopening in an orderly, clear manner. Okay.
If I may, before everyone leaves.
Yes.
Yeah, this is for Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pacheco, on behalf of myself and my friends, I'd like to thank you for the information and guidance you've been putting out there on Facebook, keeping the residents alerted to, how many active cases are in town and that type of thing. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, I don't read Facebook. What's the latest update? Because people have said to me, how many people are sick and has anybody died? And I don't have the information. Last I heard was 20 cases, but
Yeah, I've been posting weekly. As of yesterday, it's 44 in town. I have purposely not posted anything about deaths, anybody passing in town. I've just given the count.
okay. Ken, I would just ask that, since I don't do Facebook, if when you post it, is it on YouTube too?
No.
If I just,
It's on the town page.
if I go to the town website, I can find it under what, Board of Health?
It's on the Facebook social media page. I will cut and paste it and show you what it says. And just an important note, I just wanted to show, we don't have, I think the number was 44. It was not, those are not the active cases. So that's what the DPH sends out of total cases from January. It looks scary, but that's not active.
So if,
Correct. Yeah, they're not adjusted.
So if we only have 12 active cases and no death, then we can assume the other people recovered? 38.
We've had several things. Some of them have recovered. Some of the people on that list of 44 don't actually live in Dayton, but were mistakenly put in Dayton.
Oh, okay.
There's different reasons for it, but most of them have recovered. But so that number 44 is total to date. And that number is coming directly off the mass.gov website. Every Wednesday night, they post the number for every single town in Massachusetts.
That's correct.
Todd, do they give you, as the health agent, as someone that they would give this information to, I'm talking about the state, do they give you more detailed information than what trickles down to the public, I assume?
Yes, so there's a system out there called Maven, which is for the infectious diseases. We don't have our nurse on this call, but so say somebody gets tuberculosis, they would go in there also, and the nurse follows up with them and gets all the information about them. With this, she's contacting them, finding out who their contacts are, reaching out to those people, and that's that contact tracing you keep hearing about. That's where the school nurses have stepped up to help her do that. I have intentionally not been going into Maven and doing it because there's so much information. It changes hourly as information gets put in and taken out. And this is part of the confusion we've been having with the two chiefs, is we're sending them addresses of people, but the addresses, sometimes the address goes in there as duplicate because somebody's a positive test, and then they go get retested, they get tested positive again, they go into the system a second time. So it's very confusing, and that's why that number 44 is not a good number to use as anything, except that we've had somewhere around that many cases in Dayton. The other thing that happens is if I get it, and then I'm at home and my wife starts having symptoms of it, she calls her doctor, and the doctor says, I'm just going to assume you got it, stay home. And she doesn't go into the system. So the number is not exact. So
are you saying that we shouldn't be using that number? I guess when I read the thing and I see 44 cases, my mind thinks like, well, why do we keep going up? Like, aren't people coming off the list? I guess that's just me as someone who doesn't really know more, you know, than an expert would, or someone who would be told, like the town nurse. So.
Right, and that's why that number that the state is reporting is the total number of cases since COVID started in January that have been in your town. It is not the current number. And so that current number, like I say, that's the number that the chief and the town nurse have access to. I can have access to it, but I choose not to know the number just because that way I don't have to tell anybody, because it seems to scare people when they hear different numbers.
So, where did the 20 cases come from that were reported in the Gazette article last week?
He uses, Charles uses the DPH website. Because I told him, I go, I can't give you an accurate number. Call me. I don't actually know what it is because it changes so frequently. I can give you an, as of this, I was told it was this. But then to Todd's point, I stopped kind of following as well. I check in every once in a while, and I haven't heard of a death, and I haven't heard it escalating like a super high jump in between. So we've just been staying the course because what we're doing is having an effect.
Okay, thank you.
So, but yeah, he uses DPH. He didn't like the idea.
Keep in mind that even the state numbers, the overall numbers, they do not remove anybody who's recovered from COVID. So when they tell you there's 70,000 in the state, whatever it is today, it's something like that. Those people that have recovered are not removed from the list. So basically they're doing the same thing with the local jurisdictions. They're giving you just what the total number of cases per town are and not removing all the recovered people, because they're not doing that with the state as a whole.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay.
So one more thing I just want to throw out there is the Code Red thing that we're going to be sending out. Hopefully the plans will be going out very shortly here. And hopefully on Monday, people are going to be signing up for it and such. I want to thank the dispatchers for all the hard work they did on that system and doing a lot of the research and putting that thing out. And Brett for helping us trying to get it up on the website. And we're looking forward when that rolls out. We're going to be looking for everybody to, number one, sign in for it. Even if you don't live in town and you're a department head, you can still get notices for Dayton. And we're hoping you spread the word, because the more people that are on it, the better it'll work. So.
Todd, if you have some sort of literature, I know you used to have a mailer. Can you provide that so we can put it in our agenda packet? Yeah, I want to stick it in our agenda packet for the 13th.
Good work on that.
Great work.
Chief McDonald.
Yes.
Will you tell, I know Paul and Teresa were particularly, Paul Reed and Teresa Costa were particularly helpful working with the Board of Health and advising them on this. So would you give our thanks to them?
I will, yes. Teresa and Paul started this, looked into it, they forwarded it to Mallory and then at the Board of Health. So yes, I will do that.
Thanks, Chief.
Mallory.
Yes, sir.
I just want, early in the meeting, you talked about the Center Street closure. I got an update on that, for next week. It's gonna be closed, until May 15th. Weekends it will be open. Starting Monday, the hours will be 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Correct.
We said that. We were talking about how the Gazette got it wrong because they didn't indicate that weekends weren't affected and they didn't say the hours. So, yeah, well, thank you.
Okay, so you did have 7 to 5, right?
Yes, just
Yeah,
for that week.
okay.
It ends on May 15th.
Right.
And
Right, okay.
they're told in no uncertain terms, right, Tom Ferry, that it better be done because they're not getting any extra time after the 15th.
So, yes, they know that. And also, well, since the two chiefs are there, I don't have to call them, I know about it. And also the Freetown Forestry, they happened to call me yesterday, I gave them the advisement. But more importantly, our two chiefs, if you need to share town's resources, you just give the site a heads up and you guys can get through.
Right.
Thank you.
Today they did hit the conduit for the light. It's not damaged. The conduit's damaged, not the wires. They're waiting for Mass DOT to show up. So there'll probably be steel plates in the intersection for the night.
They should call DigSafe.
Big Safe doesn't do the repairs.
Tom, does the light still work?
Yes.
Okay.
Is anything else? I think I'm all set on the pandemic side and I'm eager to get these things on the schedule. So let me know if you have a preferred date. And that's all I have for today. If anybody else has something.
No, I just want to wish all the mothers a happy Mother's Day. It's coming up this Sunday. I know some of you won't get to see your children, unfortunately, but hopefully you have a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. If anybody dare, I know there are some Farmer's Daughter fans here. They're offering curbside pickup for brunch on Mother's Day. If you would like to surprise somebody, so they are not open currently, but they've opened up for this. So I would just expect a long list of reservations. Yes. Okay.
Good breakfast.
Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
You as
We'll
well.
see you
See you at 1 o'clock.
Thank you.